Madeline Carter, 27 years old. Until one ridiculous week dismantled everything I believed I was in a healthy relationship. Ethan Brooks and I had been together for about a year and a half. He was 26, charming in the effortless way that made strangers remember him, and usually so attentive that I sometimes felt guilty for questioning him at all. That was probably why the warning signs were so easy to dismiss. Nothing about Ethan's jealousy ever arrived loudly. It came disguised as humor, concern, or a question asked casually enough that answering defensively made me feel unreasonable. "Who's texting you this late? You and Daniel seem close at work. Ryan still follows you." Then Ethan would smile, kiss my forehead, and say he was only curious. At the beginning of our relationship, we had discussed former partners. Ethan still occasionally exchanged messages with his ex-girlfriend, Vanessa Cole. They had dated for 2 years, and while he claimed their breakup was final, I knew their history carried more weight than he admitted. My most recent ex-boyfriend, Ryan Mitchell, was different. Ryan and I had dated for 6 months, almost 2 years earlier. There had been no betrayal or explosive ending. We simply realized that affection did not always mean compatibility. Ethan and I agreed that friendships with former partners were acceptable under 2 conditions: honesty and respect. At least I thought we had agreed. Last Tuesday evening, while Ethan sat beside me scrolling through his phone, Ryan sent me a message. "Hey stranger, would you be interested in coffee sometime? I have some news I wanted to tell you in person." I read it twice before turning my screen toward Ethan. "Ryan wants to meet for coffee," I said. "I haven't answered yet." Ethan barely glanced at the message. "Okay. I'm serious. I won't go if it makes you uncomfortable." He gave a short laugh. "Maddie, I'm not insecure like that. Do whatever you want." Something about the wording bothered me. Not "I trust you." Not "thanks for telling me." Do whatever you want. "You're sure?" Ethan finally looked up. His expression was almost amused. "Yes. I trust you. I'm not going to control who you talk to." I nodded, although the faint tension in his jaw contradicted every relaxed word leaving his mouth. "Okay." I told Ryan I was available Thursday afternoon. We met at a small coffee shop downtown. Ryan was already seated when I arrived, tapping one foot beneath the table, with the same nervous habit he had always possessed. The moment I sat down, he smiled and held up his left hand. A simple silver band circled one finger. "I'm engaged," he announced. I stared at him before laughing. "You asked me here for that. I wanted to tell you in person. We stayed friendly, and I didn't want you finding out through Instagram." His fiancée's name was Lily. He showed me photographs of the proposal, the ring, and the 2 of them standing beneath strings of lights in her parents' backyard. For almost an hour, we talked about wedding plans, work, and the strange people we had both become since we dated. There was no flirting, no lingering nostalgia, no secret desire hiding beneath our conversation. It was almost aggressively ordinary. I returned home around 5. Ethan was sitting on my couch with his shoes still on. "How was your date?" he asked. The word struck me, but his tone was playful. "It wasn't a date. Ryan's engaged." Ethan raised his eyebrows. That was his big news. Yes. He wanted to tell me in person. Good for him. I studied Ethan for a moment. "Are we okay? Why wouldn't we be?" He reached for me, pulling me close enough to kiss my temple. "Stop worrying." We ordered Thai food, watched 2 episodes of a crime series, and went to bed. By midnight, I had convinced myself that the strange edge in his voice existed only in my imagination. Friday morning proved me wrong. I was answering emails at work when my phone began vibrating across my desk. One notification became 6, then 12. My friend Claire sent me 3 question marks followed by a screenshot. Another friend wrote, "Is Ethan trying to start something?" I opened Instagram. Ethan had posted 3 stories. The first showed 2 coffee cups across from each other on a marble table. Vanessa's hand was visible beside one cup, her familiar gold bracelet looped around her wrist. The second showed Ethan and Vanessa seated together at lunch. The third was a photograph of them laughing, their shoulders almost touching. Across the bottom, Ethan had written, "If this bothers you, that's a you problem." For several seconds, I simply stared. Ethan had met Vanessa on the same day I met Ryan. But unlike me, he had said nothing beforehand. Unlike Ryan, Vanessa was not newly engaged and sharing happy news. She was the woman Ethan had once described as the person who understood him better than anyone. And unlike me, Ethan had turned the meeting into a public performance. The caption was not vague. It was aimed directly at me. He wanted me to see it. More importantly, he wanted everyone else to see how little my feelings mattered. That evening, Ethan was stretched across my couch, as though nothing unusual had happened. "Hey babe," he said brightly. "How was work?" "Educational." He looked up. "What does that mean?" "I saw your Instagram stories." "Oh." His smile remained in place. "Yeah. Vanessa and I were catching up. You met her yesterday." "Apparently. You didn't think that was worth mentioning." Ethan shrugged. "You went out with Ryan. I told you before I went. And I told you it was fine." The caption, his expression tightened for half a second. It was a general statement. A general statement posted beneath a photograph of you with your ex-girlfriend on the same day I met mine. You're reading into it. I almost admired the confidence with which he rewrote reality. So, it wasn't directed at me. If someone feels threatened because their partner meets an old friend, that insecurity belongs to them. There it was. The philosophy he had invented specifically to excuse himself. "You're saying you're completely comfortable with me spending time with former partners." "I already said I was." "And other men?" Ethan laughed. "Why are you interrogating me? I'm establishing the rules. We established them a long time ago. Transparency and respect." "Yes. You didn't tell me about Vanessa." "I didn't need permission." "I didn't ask whether you needed permission." His smile disappeared. "You're turning this into something it isn't." Maybe an earlier version of me would have continued arguing. She would have begged him to admit the caption was cruel. She would have spent the night explaining why his behavior hurt only for him to reduce every feeling to insecurity. Instead, I looked at him and nodded. "Okay." Ethan blinked. "Okay. You're right. We're both adults. We can spend time with whoever we want." His shoulders relaxed as though he had won. "I'm glad you understand." I understood more than he realized. That night, after Ethan returned to his apartment, I opened my messages and found Noah Bennett's name. Noah had been Ethan's best friend since college. We had spent plenty of time together in groups, and I genuinely liked him. He worked in graphic design, had a brutally dark sense of humor, and possessed the rare ability to listen without preparing his next sentence. I typed, "Random question. Want to grab dinner tomorrow? I feel like we've never talked outside group hangouts." His reply arrived less than 5 minutes later. "Sure. I'm free after 7. Italian place on 5th. Perfect." Saturday evening I put on dark jeans, a cream blouse, and the earrings Ethan once told me made my eyes look brighter. Not because it was a date. Because I finally understood that appearances mattered to Ethan more than truth. Dinner with Noah was easy. We talked about work, terrible clients, and the mutual acquaintances who believed every conversation needed to become a performance. Halfway through the meal, Noah studied me. "Is something going on with Ethan?" "What makes you ask?" "He called me yesterday and asked whether you'd ever flirted with me." A cold feeling settled beneath my ribs. "What did you say?" "The truth." "No." Noah paused. "Then he told me you had coffee with Ryan." Of course he had. Ethan had already started building his version of the story. I lifted my phone. "Do you mind taking a picture?" Noah grinned. "Are we about to make a terrible decision?" "Nothing dishonest. That wasn't my question." A server photographed us across the table. Wine glasses stood between us, both of us smiling. I posted it with a simple caption, "Good food, good company." Then I tagged Noah, silenced my phone, and finished dinner. When I reached my car at 9, I had 32 notifications. Almost every one was from Ethan. "What the hell is this? Are you seriously at dinner with Noah? This is so disrespectful. Come home right now. Delete that picture. This is completely different and you know it. Answer your phone, Madeline." I took screenshots of every message. Then I typed the only response Ethan deserved. "Having dinner with a friend. If this bothers you, that's a you problem." I pressed send. For the first time since Friday morning, I felt completely calm. Ethan was waiting outside my apartment when I arrived. He stood beneath the hallway light, with his arms folded across his chest, his face flushed, and his hair disheveled, as though he had been running his hands through it for hours. The second he saw me, he pushed away from the wall. "We need to talk." I unlocked my door without answering. He followed me inside before I had invited him. "What you did tonight was completely out of line," he said. I set my purse on the kitchen counter and turned toward him. "How? You took Noah to dinner?" "Yes. My best friend." "Yes, Ethan. I know who he is. That crosses a major boundary." I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about how sincerely he believed his own argument. "You had lunch with Vanessa. That's different." "Why?" "Because Vanessa and I have history, but it's over. And Noah and I don't even have history." "That's not the point." "Then, what is the point?" Ethan began pacing between the couch and the kitchen, his movements sharp and restless. "You know exactly what you were doing. You took him out to punish me. I had dinner with someone I'm friends with. You posted it. So did you. That was not the same. You keep saying that, but you haven't explained why." His eyes narrowed. "Because he's my best friend. And Vanessa is your ex-girlfriend. She's just a friend now." "Noah has always been just a friend." Ethan dragged both hands over his face. "You're twisting everything. I'm applying your rules." "No, you're being vindictive." The word hung between us. "Vindictive," I repeated. "That's interesting." "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Talk to me like I'm stupid." "I don't think you're stupid. I think you created a rule you expected me to follow while assuming you would be exempt from it." His expression hardened. "I told you I was fine with you seeing Ryan. And I'm telling you that dinner with Noah was fine. You knew it would upset me. You knew those stories with Vanessa would upset me. I didn't know that. You wrote, 'If this bothers you, that's a you problem.' That was not specifically about you." "Then my post wasn't specifically about you either." His jaw clenched. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, Ethan's entire posture changed. He sat beside me on the couch, lowering his voice, as if gentleness could erase everything he had just said. "Baby, I'm sorry I got angry." I looked at him without responding. "I overreacted," he continued. "But can you understand why this feels different to me? Noah is one of the closest people in my life. Seeing you together like that felt like a betrayal. That is exactly how I felt when I saw you with Vanessa. But nothing happened between us. Nothing happened between Noah and me. You don't know what he might want. And you know exactly what Vanessa wants." Ethan looked away. The silence answered more clearly than he did. I felt something inside me settle. Not heartbreak. Not yet. Recognition. "You wanted me to react," I said. He turned back quickly. "What? You went out with Vanessa because I met Ryan. You posted those pictures because you wanted me jealous. That's ridiculous. You wanted proof that I cared enough to become upset. I don't play games like that. You're playing one right now." He stood so abruptly that the coffee table shook. "Fine. You want to keep acting like this. We're done." The sentence was meant to frighten me. I could see it in his face. He expected panic. He expected me to stand, apologize, delete the photograph, and promise never to speak to Noah alone again. Instead, I nodded. "Okay." Ethan stared at me. "Okay. I'm not staying with someone who creates boundaries only after I do something he doesn't like." "You're seriously throwing away a year and a half over one argument. You're the one who just ended it because you refused to admit you were wrong. And you refused to admit we did the same thing." "We did not do the same thing." There was no reaching him. Every path led back to Ethan, as the injured party. He could hurt me intentionally and call it confidence. I could mirror his behavior once, and suddenly it became cruelty. He marched toward my bedroom and began gathering the few things he kept at my apartment: a toothbrush, 2 shirts, a phone charger, and a pair of running shoes. I stayed seated. At the door, he turned around. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe." "You think Noah actually cares about you. He was probably waiting for a chance to get between us." "That sounds like something you should discuss with Noah." Ethan's face tightened. Then he slammed the door hard enough to rattle the framed photograph above my entry table. A few seconds later, my neighbor texted, "Everything okay over there?" I looked around the suddenly quiet apartment. The relationship was over. I should have been devastated. Instead, I felt as though I had stepped out of a room where I had not realized the air was thinning. I replied to my neighbor, "I'm okay. Sorry about the noise." Sunday morning, I turned my phone back on. The screen nearly froze beneath the flood of notifications. Ethan had posted a 7-part Instagram story sometime after midnight. The first slide read, "When someone shows you who they really are, believe them." The second, "Boundaries exist for a reason." The third, "If your partner deliberately tries to hurt you, that isn't love." By slide 5, he had called manipulation a form of abuse. By slide 7, he had announced that he was single, healing, and finally choosing himself. He never used my name. He did not need to. Everyone knew. His closest friends filled the replies with messages about knowing his worth and escaping toxic people. But not everyone accepted his version without question. Someone commented beneath his latest post, "Didn't you just upload pictures with Vanessa 2 days ago?" The comment disappeared within minutes. Around 10, Noah texted me, "What is happening?" Before I could answer, another message arrived. "Ethan called me last night, screaming. He said I betrayed him by taking you to dinner." I typed back, "He showed up at my apartment and broke up with me." Noah called immediately. "You're serious?" he asked. "Completely. All we did was eat pasta and complain about clients." "I know. He accused me of secretly wanting you." I closed my eyes. "Do you?" Noah was quiet for half a second. "No. You're my friend." I thought that was obvious. It was to me. I told him the same thing. He said I was lying. I leaned against the kitchen counter. "I think the truth doesn't help him right now." Noah exhaled slowly. "For what it's worth, I saw those posts with Vanessa. That caption was aimed at you." He insists it wasn't. "Of course he does. You know him better than I do. Why would he do it?" Noah hesitated. "I think he wanted you jealous." The answer still hurt despite already believing it. "He mentioned Ryan before calling me," Noah continued. "He kept saying, 'You acted too calm about meeting your ex.' Like your lack of guilt somehow proved you didn't care about him. So he tested me. Probably. Then you didn't react the way he expected." "I reacted eventually." "Yeah," Noah said. "Just not the way he wanted." After we ended the call, Ethan phoned twice. I let both calls go to voicemail. His message was brief. "Madeline, we need to talk about this like adults. You can't just ignore me. Call me back." The irony was almost impressive. He had broken up with me, slammed my door, and spent the night accusing me publicly of abuse. Now my refusal to answer immediately was proof that I was immature. I deleted the voicemail. Monday afternoon, an unfamiliar number sent me a text. "Hello, Madeline. This is Ethan's mother." I stared at the message. I had met Mrs. Brooks 3 times. She continued before I responded. "Ethan told me what happened. He's extremely upset. I believe you both said things in the heat of the moment. Perhaps you should speak and work this out." I typed carefully. "With respect, this is between Ethan and me. We are both adults." Her response came quickly. "He says you deliberately took Noah to dinner to hurt him." I looked at the words for a long moment before replying. "Ethan met Vanessa without telling me, posted photographs of them together, and wrote, 'If this bothers you, that's a you problem.' I had dinner with Noah and used the same logic. Ethan decided those situations were different." Mrs. Brooks did not respond. By Tuesday, Ethan changed tactics. He posted an old photograph of us from a weekend trip. We were standing beside a lake, his arm around my waist, both of us laughing at something outside the frame. The caption read, "Sometimes, the person who looks perfect for you is the person who hurts you the most. Trust the process. Everything happens for a reason." An hour later, Noah sent me another message. "He's telling people we were secretly seeing each other." My stomach dropped. "What?" "He says the dinner was us going public." "That is insane." "I know. I've told everyone the truth, but he's building a whole story around it." Then Noah sent another message. "I'm thinking about posting our conversation so people can see exactly how ordinary the invitation was." "Do what you need to do," I replied. "I have screenshots too." That evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. I checked the peephole. Ethan stood outside. "I know you're in there," he called. "I can hear the television." I opened the door but remained in the doorway. "What do you want?" His face looked softer than it had Saturday night. "I want to fix this. You told everyone I cheated on you. I was hurt. You lied. I miss you, Maddie." The use of my nickname was deliberate. "I overreacted," he continued. "I can admit that. Can you—" "Yes. I shouldn't have posted those stories." I waited. He sighed. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For the pictures. For the caption. For getting angry. And for telling people I cheated?" His gaze shifted past me into the apartment. "I said things because I felt betrayed. That isn't an apology. You're making this impossible." "No, I'm asking you to name what you did." He stepped closer. "Can't we start over? Pretend this week never happened?" "No. No." The answer surprised both of us with its certainty. "This week showed me exactly what happens when I refuse to play the role you assigned me." "What role?" "The girlfriend who accepts whatever you do and apologizes whenever you dislike her response." His face hardened again. "You're still twisting this. And you're still proving my point." I began closing the door. Ethan placed his palm against it. "Wait. Move your hand. Madeline, move it." Something in my voice finally reached him. He lowered his hand. "We're done," I said. "Do not come here again." I closed the door. He knocked for another minute before the hallway finally went silent. The next morning, Noah sent me a screenshot from Ethan's group chat. Ethan had written, "She's clearly not over Ryan. That's why she's punishing me." Classic deflection. Honestly, I dodged a bullet. Noah had replied, "Or maybe you created a double standard, and she called you on it." Ethan responded, "Whose side are you on?" Noah's final message read, "The side of not being a hypocrite." Then Ethan removed him from the chat. A minute later, Noah texted me. "Well, I'm officially cut off." "I'm sorry," I wrote. "I never wanted to damage your friendship." His response came almost instantly. "Don't be. I'm starting to think the friendship was already damaged. I just hadn't admitted it yet." By Friday afternoon, the story Ethan had been telling everyone was beginning to crack. I knew because someone I barely knew requested to follow me on Instagram. Her name was Olivia. She had always floated around Ethan's larger friend group. We'd spoken maybe twice at birthday parties, never long enough to become actual friends. I accepted the request out of curiosity. Within minutes, my inbox chimed. "Hi. I know this is random, but can I ask what actually happened?" I stared at the message. Apparently, Ethan's version wasn't convincing everyone anymore. I replied, "Depends what you've been told." She answered almost immediately, "That you manipulated him. That you've secretly liked Noah for months. That dinner was your way of humiliating Ethan publicly." I almost laughed. Instead, I opened my screenshots folder. There they were. Ryan's original coffee invitation. The messages where it informed Ethan before meeting Ryan. His own Instagram stories with Vanessa. The caption, "If this bothers you, that's a you problem." Then my dinner photo. Then Ethan's furious messages demanding I delete it. I sent everything. 10 minutes passed. Finally, 3 typing bubbles appeared. "Oh, wow. He definitely left out basically everything." I leaned back against my couch. That's usually how these stories work. Another message appeared. "Would you mind if I shared these with a couple people? Everyone keeps talking about how abusive you were, and this completely changes the timeline." I thought about it. For nearly a week, I'd stayed quiet while Ethan rewrote reality. If people wanted the truth already existed. Go ahead. Just don't edit anything. An hour later, Olivia uploaded every screenshot. No commentary, no insults, only one sentence. "Context matters." The reaction was immediate. Saturday morning, my phone exploded again. Only this time, the messages weren't attacking me. Several mutual friends apologized for believing Ethan. Others admitted something had always felt strange about his story. The screenshots answered every question. Most importantly, they showed the order. Ryan contacted me first. I informed Ethan beforehand. He secretly met Vanessa. He posted the passive-aggressive caption. I mirrored his exact behavior. He lost his mind. Without that sequence, his version almost sounded believable. With it, The hypocrisy became impossible to ignore. Ethan did exactly what I'd expected. He posted another series of stories. People who share private conversations without consent show you exactly who they are. Real betrayal comes from fake friends. Some people will do anything to destroy your reputation. He never denied the screenshots. He simply complained that people had seen them. There was a difference. A huge one. Comments started appearing beneath his latest photo. "Didn't you literally write, 'If this bothers you, that's a you problem'? Funny how boundaries only matter when they're yours. You could have just apologized." Within an hour, every critical comment disappeared. Then Ethan made his account private. That afternoon, Noah called. "He's melting down." I figured. He called me from a different number. What did he want? He said I ruined his life. I laughed softly. "You." He wanted me to tell everyone the screenshots were fake. And I asked him which screenshot. Silence. He couldn't answer. Noah Sahil. Then his sister called. His sister. She asked me to delete everything because people were judging him. I didn't post anything. "I know." I told her that. He laughed once. Apparently that made me a terrible friend. Sunday afternoon. An unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello." A man's voice. "Madeline." "Who's this?" "I'm Ethan's older brother." "Of course. We need to talk." "About?" "The way you've been humiliating my brother." I closed my eyes. "I haven't contacted Ethan once." "You've turned everyone against him." "I haven't turned anyone." "Those screenshots, I didn't post them." Silence. "They're still your conversations. They're also real." Another pause. "My brother says you manipulated everything. I can send you the full conversation." "I don't need screenshots." No. "Then why call?" He hesitated. Finally, he answered honestly. "Because he's devastated." I spoke calmly. He secretly met his ex-girlfriend. He posted her online. He told me my feelings were my own problem. I repeated his behavior once. He broke up with me. Silence again. Longer this time. Then, "You shouldn't have taken Noah. I had dinner with a friend. You knew it had hurt him." He knew Vanessa would hurt me. Another silence. Finally, "I still think you both handled it badly." "That's your opinion." I ended the call before he could continue. Monday brought another surprise. A woman from Ethan's office messaged me. I remembered meeting her once at a company holiday dinner. "Hey, I don't know if you remember me." "I do," she replied. "Ethan's been talking about you at work non-stop." My stomach sank. "What kind of talking?" "He's telling people you stalked him, that you're manipulating his friends, that you're trying to destroy his career." I rubbed my forehead. "Seriously?" "Yeah. HR actually pulled him into a meeting today. Apparently coworkers complained because every conversation somehow became about you." I blinked. He'd taken this into work. "Thank you for telling me. Just be careful. He's acting really unstable." Tuesday evening. Another email arrived. From Ethan. Subject: "Can we please be adults?" Against my instincts. I opened it. The email was almost beautiful. Not because it was sincere, because it was perfectly constructed. It began with, "I've spent a lot of time reflecting." Then, "I realize we both made mistakes." Then, "I still love you." Then, "Maybe couples therapy could help us communicate better." Finally, the closing paragraph. "I'm willing to forgive you if you're willing to grow with me." I read that sentence 3 times. Forgive me. The woman he'd publicly accused. The woman he'd lied about. The woman he'd dumped. He was offering forgiveness. I smiled, then replied with exactly 1 sentence. "No thanks. Enjoy your growth journey without me." His response came less than 5 minutes later. "You'll regret this." I answered once more. "I'll take my chances." A minute later, he blocked me everywhere. For the first time in weeks, my phone became wonderfully quiet. Wednesday afternoon, Noah invited me for coffee. Not because either of us wanted drama. Because we both needed to laugh about how absurd everything had become. Halfway through our conversation, he leaned forward. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." This wasn't actually the first time. The first time what happened? Ethan, creating problems that didn't exist. I frowned. What do you mean? He stirred his coffee slowly. The girlfriend before you. I waited. He accused her of cheating because she attended her male cousin's birthday party without him. I blinked. Her cousin. Her actual cousin. What happened? He demanded her phone. She gave it to him. He found absolutely nothing. Did he apologize? Noah laughed. No. What did he do? He acted like the whole thing never happened. I felt my stomach tighten. And before her, Noah Saihu. That girlfriend was really close with her older brother. Okay. Ethan got jealous. Of her brother. He told her she spent too much time with him. I stared. You're joking. I wish I was. What happened? She chose her brother. I would have done the same. So would I. Noah smiled sadly. You're actually the first woman who ever had proof. Proof. He always tells his version first. He controls the story before anyone else can speak. I slowly nodded. That explained everything. The Instagram stories. The emotional speeches. The family involvement. The endless attempts to rewrite history. It had never really been about Vanessa. Or Ryan. Or Noah. It had always been about control. And for the first time, control hadn't worked. 5 weeks passed. Long enough for the anger to cool. Long enough for the gossip to become old news. Long enough for everyone, including me, to see what had actually happened. According to social media, Ethan had moved on. 3 weeks after our breakup, photographs of him with a new girlfriend began appearing online. She worked at another branch of his company. Pretty, confident, always smiling. The captions practically screamed happiness. New beginnings. Finally appreciated. Peace looks good on me. It all felt strangely familiar. The more he posted, the more obvious it became that the audience wasn't his new girlfriend. It was everyone who had witnessed our breakup, especially me. I never reacted. There wasn't anything left to say. One afternoon, Noah sent me a screenshot. You'll appreciate this. I opened it. It was one of Ethan's older Instagram posts. The one from before we dated. The same coffee shop picture with Vanessa. His new girlfriend had commented beneath it. Who's she? Ethan replied almost immediately. Just an old friend. Nothing to worry about. I smiled. Then came her next comment. Cool. Maybe we should all grab coffee together sometime since you're obviously comfortable hanging out with exes. Noah called me less than an hour later. The post disappeared. Already. He deleted the whole thing. I laughed. What happened after that? Apparently they argued. About the exact same thing. I leaned back in my chair. The irony is almost too perfect. That's what I said. A week later, another familiar pattern appeared. Ethan posted a long paragraph about trust. Some people are naturally suspicious. You can't build a future with someone who refuses to trust you. Healthy relationships require emotional maturity. I read it once, then closed the app. I didn't need Noah to tell me what had happened. His new girlfriend had questioned his friendship with Vanessa. Ethan had probably responded with the same speeches he'd once given me, only this time. He wasn't the one asking for understanding. He was demanding it. The new girlfriend stopped appearing in photographs a few days later. No official announcement. No explanation. Just silence. Noah texted. Well, that lasted. Apparently, she wasn't comfortable with Vanessa after all. Funny? Very. Meanwhile, life had become surprisingly peaceful. Without the constant pressure of defending myself, I realized how exhausted I'd actually been. I slept better. I laughed more. Work stopped feeling overwhelming. My manager even noticed. About 6 weeks after the breakup, she called me into her office. You've been doing excellent work lately. I wasn't expecting that. We'd like to give you a raise. It wasn't enormous, but it felt symbolic. My life was moving forward. Not because Ethan was gone, because my energy was no longer consumed by managing someone else's emotions. The biggest surprise wasn't work. It was my friendships. People I barely knew during my relationship suddenly started inviting me to things. Board game nights, birthday dinners, weekend hikes. Apparently, many people had tolerated Ethan's constant need for attention because he had been central to the social group. Without him, everything became easier. One Saturday evening, Noah invited me to a concert. Nothing romantic. There were 8 of us. Halfway through the night, he introduced me to someone. "Madeline, this is Daniel." Daniel Harper smiled warmly. He was a veterinary technician. Soft-spoken, easygoing. Nothing about him felt performative. We spent almost an hour talking about rescue dogs, terrible apartment landlords, and why pineapple absolutely belonged on pizza. "I know that's controversial," he admitted. I laughed. "I've ended friendships over less." He grinned. "I'll consider this our first obstacle." It was refreshing. No games, no hidden tests, no attempts to impress each other. Just conversation. Over the next couple of weeks, we saw each other several more times. Coffee, a museum, an afternoon walking through the botanical gardens. I decided to tell him everything before the relationship became serious. Not because I thought I owed him an explanation, because transparency mattered to me now more than ever. One evening, I handed him my phone. "What am I looking at?" "The screenshots." He read quietly for several minutes, occasionally shaking his head. Finally, he looked up. "So, that's everything." He nodded. "I have one question." "Go ahead." "Why did you stay calm for as long as you did?" I thought about it. Because I loved him. And I kept believing that if I explained myself better, he'd finally understand. Daniel reached across the table and squeezed my hand gently. "You shouldn't have had to defend basic fairness. Simple. Honest. No speeches. No psychology. Just truth." That moment told me more about his character than any dramatic declaration ever could. A few days later, Noah called while laughing so hard he could barely speak. "You are never going to believe this." "What happened?" "Ethan asked one of our mutual friends whether you and I are secretly dating." I covered my face. "Seriously?" "Apparently, he refuses to believe we're actually just friends." "Did the friend tell him the truth?" "Yep. And he said we're lying." I couldn't help smiling. "He thinks everyone works the way he does." "Exactly. If he spends time with someone, there has to be an ulterior motive. Because that's how he thinks. And revenge is the only explanation he understands." The conversation stayed with me long after we hung up. Maybe that was the saddest part of everything. Ethan genuinely couldn't imagine 2 people simply treating each other with kindness. Everything had to be strategy. Control. Winning. Losing. Power. Weeks later, I unexpectedly saw him again. I was having dinner with coworkers after finishing a project. As I looked toward the entrance, there he was. He was seated across the restaurant with 2 friends. For a brief moment, our eyes met. Recognition flashed across his face. Then embarrassment. He whispered something to the people sitting beside him. Within seconds, all 3 stood, picked up their drinks, asked a server for another table across the restaurant. One of my coworkers watched the entire scene. "Was that your ex?" "Yeah. He just moved tables. I noticed." She burst out laughing. "That's honestly the most dramatic thing I've seen all month." I smiled. So was dating him. She nearly choked on her drink. Later, I heard more pieces of the aftermath, through mutual friends. Ethan's social circle had never fully recovered. The friends who had seen the screenshots gradually drifted away, not because anyone forced them, because once they recognized the pattern, they couldn't ignore it anymore. Noah eventually became one of the people organizing birthday dinners, trivia nights, and weekend trips. Ethan was almost never invited. Apparently, he tried creating an entirely new friend group. It never really worked. Reputations built on controlling narratives eventually collapse when too many people compare notes. His problems at work continued as well. After repeated complaints about bringing personal drama into meetings, management transferred him to another team. No one celebrated it. It simply happened. Action. Consequences. Nothing more. One evening, while walking home with Daniel, I realized something. For weeks after the breakup, I'd been obsessed with proving I wasn't the villain Ethan described. Now, I couldn't remember the last time I'd even thought about defending myself. Daniel looked over. "You look happy." I think I finally am. What changed? I smiled. I stopped trying to convince someone committed to misunderstanding me. He nodded. That's a pretty freeing feeling. It is. Looking back now, the breakup still hurts in some ways. Not because I miss Ethan. Because I miss the person I believed he was. The man who respected honesty. The partner who supposedly valued equality. That version never actually existed. The real Ethan wanted freedom without accountability. He wanted trust without earning it. He wanted rules that applied to everyone except himself. The moment those same rules came back to him, he called it betrayal. For a while, I wondered whether posting that dinner photo had been petty. Maybe it was. But it was also revealing. One harmless photograph exposed a truth that 18 months of conversations never could. His outrage wasn't about Noah. It wasn't even about me. It was about losing control of the narrative. The screenshots that followed weren't revenge. They were evidence. I didn't invent his words. I simply preserved them. Everyone reached their own conclusions. Natural consequences did the rest. Today, Noah remains one of my closest friends. Daniel and I are taking things slowly. Ryan married Lily exactly as he promised he would. And whenever someone asks me what I learned from all of this, my answer is always the same. Real love doesn't require double standards. Healthy relationships don't need loyalty tests. And the easiest way to expose hypocrisy is sometimes to hold up a mirror. Ethan probably still believes I ruined his life. I don't. He did that himself, the moment he decided fairness only mattered when it benefited him. Walking away wasn't my revenge. It was my freedom.